saw a decent amount of rain over the last few days. And, some spots seeing over 2 inches. Ironwood showing 2.24 inches, probably go over 3 inches just south of Ashland around there. That's where we actually had our flash flood warning in place yesterday morning. So decent amount of rain, but of course, if you looked at some of the satellite imagery of the system that brought this rain, not a very remarkable system overall, not very strong or robust. But what allowed for these storms to produce quite a bit of rain, for there to be quite a bit of storm development, is something we call the low-level jet. So we're going to look at what that is. Basically, what a low-level jet is just a fast-moving ribbon of air, but in the lower levels of atmosphere. So imagine it's like the jet stream, but a little bit smaller, a little bit lower down in the atmosphere, about a mile up above the surface. So now we're going to look at some maps showing actual data from the last few days to kind of see what it looks like when we look at maps like this, and also kind of break down the components of why exactly it could cause a good amount of storm development even with a weaker system. So now I'll show you this. Here's the twin portions to give you a reference. Lake Superior. So Northland's up in this area. We're going to leave that orange dot there. But now we're looking here, 7 a.m. on Monday. You notice this little bit plume of these green contours. That is a moisture plume that's starting to reach out. This is a sign of that low-level jet pushing out. And of course, with moisture, we need that because guess what? Storms are made of water. So moisture is it's the fuel is what these storms run off. And then we're going to pull forward. Now we're at 7 p.m. Monday. Now we're going to look at another component because you can see there's that moisture plume brought out. And now notice these barbs. You'll notice the more lines on these barbs right here, that means the stronger the wind. So you'll notice in this area right here, we have a little bit stronger. That's our jet stream. Basically, like I mentioned, a little jet stream, just a little bit lower in the atmosphere. Again, about a mile up. And then now we're going to pull forward to 7 a.m. Tuesday. And you just notice there is that moisture still sticking around, the enhanced winds. And when you have stronger winds like this, it creates what we call stronger vertical shear, and that enables for more robust storm development. So you don't need a very strong system. If you have a strong low-level jet and enough moisture and instability making its way in, well, you could get storms that produce multiple inches of rain, causing flash flooding. And if the environment was right, maybe even some severe storms, in fact. But let's turn to what's going on right now. Notice we have this high pressure system moving on down, so the rain's moving out. A couple showers were in the UP, but most of them moved out. Now what we do have this morning is some fog. Look at these dense fog advisories. We don't have too much around the North Shore. They've been updated, so some spots are now not under the dense fog advisory, but we still have dense fog, again, under a quarter mile. So as you get out this morning, just make sure you're cautious of that. I'm going to be careful and just patient overall as you get out this morning if there is dense fog in your area. And as we get going to the day, notice a lot of it's going to be start seeing that sunshine, so the fog and the low clouds are going to start to burn off. The clouds are going to be a little more persistent as you head east into northwest Wisconsin, especially into the UP, as well as around Lake Superior. We can see those clouds being a little more hesitant to burn off, so that's going to allow it to stay a little bit cooler in those areas. Staying in the 60s in the areas around the UP, as well as you get along Lake Superior, because we're going to have that lake breeze today. But once you get further out west, and especially further inland, going to be those temperatures getting to the low to mid 70s, so a little bit warmer overall. And then as we go into Thursday, it's going to be a very similar story to today, so it's going to be like a repeat. Some fog in the morning, cooler by Lake Superior. As we go further inland, a little bit warmer, getting into those 70s. Now as we go moving forward into the weekend and next week, but notice that we're just going to continue to warm up gradually. It's going to be a pretty good amount above average. It's going to feel more like summer, 70s, even low 80s for those highs away from Lake Superior. So yeah, it's going to give us probably one of our final taste of summer before we're really not going to get these warm temperatures really much at all. We're getting closer to winter now. And in all these warm temperatures, because we have this ridge in the jet stream, it's going to be settling over the Great Lakes even into next week. But notice we do have a bit of a trough out further west. That's going to bring a little bit of instability. We're going to see some of it today. It looks like it might stay off to the north. We'll just have to keep an eye on that, though. Tomorrow will be the first time we see some shower action start to return. But then we're going to start having a drier weekend before we see more robust chances for rain start to come back as we get to Monday and potentially even into the middle of the week as a disturbance moves in out of the west thanks to that trough I mentioned. So we can see some scattered showers and thunderstorms kind of sticking around into next week. And look at our 7-day forecast. So today and tomorrow, that lake breeze is going to be going further inland, a little bit warmer, getting to the 70s. But by the time we start getting into the weekend, into next week, the rain chances will return and we'll continue to see those warm temperatures stick around.